We have called the meeting to order. We have voted on the minutes from the previous meeting and we have all approved them.
Great.
We have reviewed and discussed the vendor and payroll warrants. Public comment, doesn't look like we have anybody for public comment. Appointments. Discussion and possible vote on the request of the police chief, who is present, to use opioid settlement funds for the purchase of 2 automatic external defibrillators, 1 each for the police department and the town offices.
Yes.
Okay, and we've got a
That sums it
letter,
up.
right, that does sum it up, and we have a letter from you, making that request.
Yes.
Michael, I think you were gonna speak to that, with some public health understanding.
If, are we moving right to that right now?
And moving right to that.
All right, very good. So, over the last, year and a half or so, I've attended a lot of opioid, sessions with some with the FERCog, some with the state. And, I just want to be, cognizant of what was hammered home in those meetings for me was, that any purchases made, through the opioid settlement needed to be, very specific to the community that it's addressing. And I'm just having completed the train the trainer for opioid overdose. I have to just, I'm a little worried about the appropriateness of AED. And so defibrillators are a very useful tool for a lot of things, but they are not part of an opioid overdose. And so I just want to be careful with, the town's liability around that, or whether or not, it's an appropriate expenditure for those funds.
Could you give us a crash course in what is needed in an overdose situation?
So what I have, what is needed in an overdose? So
Needed
primarily
and
the Narcan.
Ever needed. Sorry,
So,
it's a deep, ever needed.
So primarily Narcan and assisted breathing. It's really, it's not a cardiac event. So I don't know that we can say that a defibrillator would be part of treatment for anyone in an overdose situation. So that's the hard part. I have a list here of the different municipal uses of abatement funds from the Massachusetts opioid abatement agreement, and under section 3A, it comes really, this is where it support the work of emergency medical systems, including peer support specialists, post-overdose response teams, to connect individuals to trauma-informed treatment, recovery support, harm reduction services, primary healthcare, or other appropriate services following an opioid overdose or other opioid-related adverse event. So, but just having, again, having completed the train the trainer, there's just not a, there isn't a, it's not a cardiac event. So I just wanted to be aware of that. Jim's absolutely right. The town needs it, but maybe this is not
This may not be the funding source that we can draw from in order to get them, because we're under strict legal restrictions about what we're allowed to use that money for. Jim, do you have anything to add?
Well, I don't dispute it. I mean, I leave it to the medical experts. We've responded to a number of overdoses, and we always bring in the defib, we bring in Narcan, we bring in, whatever we have. We have applied the defib in those situations. I wouldn't disagree that somebody that's just overdosed, that if we get them in time, we could give them the Narcan and proceed further from there. I mean, more time that goes along, it could end up being a cardiac issue. But again, I'm not a medical expert. I go by the training that we get, CPR, first responder, defib training, and that's one of the tools that are utilized from all the training that attended, and I haven't attended this train the trainer class, but.
Right. When the South County EMS responds, they have a defibrillator on their ambulance, right?
They do.
And this defibrillator for the police department, where would that be?
That would go in our cruiser.
Well, we have 4 cruisers, or, well, some number of cruisers
We have
We have some-
3 cruisers now and 1 detail car,
in the detail car.
so we only have 2 defibrillators. So
So we already have 2 defibrillators,
we have 2, 1 in each car.
1 in each car.
Yeah.
Okay, so we already have a defibrillator in the police car.
We have 2, one
There are 2.
in the 1 car, 1 in the 2 car, and then we just added a 3rd cruiser this past year. We don't have 1 in that car.
And how often does that 3rd car get used?
All the time.
Oh,
It's used every day.
It's used every day. So we have 3 cars out every day.
So I have the car that I primarily use, and then we have the other cruiser would be the other officer that's working during the day. And then we have an officer that works in the evening that uses the new car. So we have the one that I use, one that the daytime officer uses, and one that the evening
Yeah.
officer uses.
Okay, and
And a lot of
daytime and
times there's
evening-
overlaps.
I was gonna say daytime and evening overlap by a couple of hours.
Well, it depends.
Some
It
days.
depends on the day. Some days it's 4 hours of overlap,
okay.
depending on, because we have a
Can I-
clinician
sorry,
that
can
comes
I-
along with us.
Can I cut this portion of the
Okay, no.
conversation, because I think the real question is whether the defibrillator is actually ever used in a Narcan overdose.
No, yeah.
Not how many cars you have or whether we want to put defibrillators in them, because we may want to very much. And we may want one for the town office building as well. We're just trying to determine if we can use the, ARPA, the particular funds, that's not ARPA, the opioid settlement funds for it. So you said that you have used a defibrillator in an overdose situation.
Yes.
Can you describe that to us?
At least 2 situations 2 calls that we've had. And it's the same thing. We get there, there's no pulse, there's no breathing. You start CPR, you go through that process. Part of the CPR process is getting the defib attached as soon as possible. You learn information that the person's going through an overdose, you apply Narcan. Part of CPR is the breathing part, the breathing component where you're giving breaths as well. But we've never not used it because it's an overdose, so we're not gonna use the defib now. Like I said, I can only speak specifically to the 2 incidents that I'm aware of, that I've actually done it. I know it's happened more often than that, but whether that's the appropriate thing, I've never been told otherwise, and in our training that we go through, it's part of that training. If the person doesn't have a pulse and they're not breathing, we start CPR, and then you get the defib.
Michael, I see you have your hand raised. Could you?
I just would like to share and talk to Jim about I'd be happy to work and do further research, but my understanding is that it's contraindicated, that what we're seeing in an overdose is, yes, what happens when the breathing becomes so shallow, the pulse is difficult to hear, but it still exists. And again, it's not a cardiac issue at all. It's strictly a breathing issue. So chest compressions or defibrillators are actually contraindicated from my understanding. So I am no expert. But I would like to continue this conversation and research it further. But my understanding, like I say, is that it's contraindicated. That again, while you're not, you're not palpating, you're not feeling a pulse. But again, that's related to the shallow, the breathing going down. So that's the primary issue. So.
Fred, I'm hearing you.
The question I would have is whether any other communities have requested funds for this purpose and been approved or rejected for purchasing these with these funds.
Using these
Using
funds.
these funds.
Yeah.
And I'd also want to hear from the South County EMS folks, what their understanding of best practices is. Is this something that we have to
I don't think that.
decide on tonight or by the end of the year or anything?
No.
And we decide to,
Get more information? That
get
sounds
more
like a reasonable
information.
way to proceed to me.
Would you like to invite somebody from South County EMS, or do you want me to reach out to them and see what
Let's
their
invite somebody
protocols
because we
are?
may have questions for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic if they.
I know at an advanced level, advanced, and I'm not sure at what point, you know, the ambulance, obviously, they're more advanced than we are, but from a law enforcement perspective, again,
Yeah.
no pulse, no breathing,
Right.
we're starting.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we need to address both the medical side and the administrative side.
Yeah.
Is this something that has been done and decided upon?
And either way, it's not a bad idea for us to
Right.
have, you know, some of the, for the police and some even at the town office building. And you never know what could happen. Michael, you were waving?
I didn't mean to, but yes, I agree with everything that's been said, and I think it makes sense. The one idea that I had was the possibility of also inviting someone from the Franklin County's opioid task force. They are a very informed group as well, with more history about what's happening throughout the county, with opioid funds.
All right,
Yeah.
so if we're gonna do those invitations, who's gonna reach out?
I'd be fine with reaching out to the opioid task force.
Okay. And,
I can reach out to South County.
okay, thank you.
And I'll see if, the state has any information, if any other communities have.
Or if there's any guidance on this
Yeah.
On
particular
the issue,
subject.
yeah, you're right.
So we'll
The
continue.
guidance is frustratingly lacking. It's very frustrating. There's just, it's really a challenge across many communities of how to spend these funds and stick with,
Within the.
Yeah, again, I just want to know, has anyone else done this?
of course. Yes, yeah, that'd be important information.
Right.
Well,
Or even, do we know, like, if we.
or
bought
gotten in
these-
trouble.
Yeah,
Just
like,
that
how do
might
we-
come either way.
Like, how do we know whether we're getting in trouble or not? Like.
You have to report your use of funds whenever you do expend them. Well, but we fall under a non-reporting.
Non-reporting town. So $35,000 a year coming in for opioid requires state accounting for how you spent the funds. Not just your town, but if you also choose to join your shared services group. So if your entire shared services is 35,000, I don't believe we are, even if we do sign on with either the Foothills or South County, neither of them would put us in that $35,000 range. I don't believe, but I don't have those numbers. That's when you have to report to the state. But I have not heard of anybody getting rejected for what they've purchased.
But even if we aren't required to report, we don't want to be susceptible to an audit that then would
Yeah,
identify
yeah.
a misuse of funds.
So, so at some point, we wouldn't be able to get the feedback in time.
Oh,
But
yeah,
no, you
yeah.
can't get pre-approval.
Yeah, because it's not like we have to submit a request to be approved. You're
Yeah, we're the
approving the
approver.
use of the funds, and
Mhm.
then you're taking responsibility for
Right.
said use, so.
Okay,
Yeah, and then if it were to somehow come up in an audit, we'd have to like figure out some other way to get those funds, because
Yeah.
something we paid for, we'd have to
Yeah,
pay it
right.
back into those.
Which is something we might do, given that we agree it's a good idea to have any.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
All
true.
I'll also reach out to the fire chief, JP Kennedy,
okay,
because
Okay.
I have had conversations with him and he was in support of this as well, so. I
Yeah.
can pick his brain a little bit more and let him know what Mike said, maybe there's a different perspective, maybe that's like I said, an advanced care level versus
Yeah.
responding on the street or something happening right here and now,
yeah,
Right,
so.
I know they have defibrillators at the schools.
Yeah.
That was.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Years
A
ago.
valuable tool, a very valuable tool, no doubt.
Yeah,
I'm not
Or we may-
100% sure of the requirements that town buildings are required to have them. But that's another,
and it's a, yeah,
another topic, but
Yeah.
in my opinion, it should, regardless,
It's
it should
probably-
absolutely.
there's enough old people in and out of this building that we,
and most of our buildings,
And
yeah.
I've talked to at least two people that are aware of incidents that have happened in this building where they,
could have used the defib.
well, not necessarily could have used it, but were wondering, oh my God, we don't have one. This could have been a situation where we could have potentially needed one and we don't have one, so we should definitely.
So this sounds like it should be an item that's on the agenda, no matter what.
Yeah.
Just what
For another
payment
meeting,
source or.
whether,
Just put this
no
on.
matter where we source the money from,
Yeah,
that we would like to.
Like
yeah. Like, is that a capital?
request.
Like capital request.
Yes.
I was just gonna say that.
Could we put a capital request in and maybe you can retract it later if we decide it's.
I mean, what
It's
happened
not
last year,
risky.
you had a number of capital requests that you then converted to ARPA instead of using capital
Yeah.
funds.
And
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
this theoretically could be converted to opioid
Yes.
funds.
And we have looked at other funding sources. I think JP, the fire chief, has applied twice for a grant and we haven't gotten a grant for defibrillators, so that's a.
yet.
Another, yeah, keep trying and trying and trying and trying.
All right, I'm gonna move us along to the next agenda
So,
item and.
just to-
Things, yeah,
Just to clarify, we're gonna continue this to the January 14th.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
they, when they reach out, they can let them know it's
yeah,
January
so
14th.
do invite
Okay.
folks to the January 13th meeting.
So I'll be inviting the opioid task force, the January 14th meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Very good.
and you'll be in the fire chief and South County EMS, and thank you both for attending and for your information.
Of course.
Sure. 6:20, discussion and possible vote on the request of the Whately Snowmobile Club to use the former DeMaio property on State Road as a parking area for access to the snowmobile trail network. As usual, on an annual basis, Bob?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you for taking the time to take a look at this and think about it. And I appreciate Mr. Kane sneaking that in on the agenda. So much appreciated by me and the snowmobile community.
I don't have any questions. My understanding is that there have been no incidents where this has been
A
a
problem.
problem of any kind. So I would move that the board permit the Whately Snowmobile Club to park vehicles at the former DeMaio property located at 268 State Road in order to access the snowmobile trail network. The club has provided the insurance. We have a copy of that, and users must remove any and all trash. The use of the parking lot will end April 15th, 2025 for this season.
I will second, but have one comment, and that is further on our agenda is an item about tree removal where Testland will be storing their vehicles at the mail lot. Will this,
It's only for that 1 week of tree
Okay, and
removal.
we hope it doesn't snow heavily that week.
It should be this week.
We had a lot of rain, so.
Right, yeah, so long as they don't get in the way of the snowmobiles.
Yes.
All right,
But yeah,
back
it
to
would
the
only be
motion
for
and the
that.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
okay. You have a place to park.
Oh, thank you so much. Happy holidays and safe holidays to all of you.
Thank
Much
you.
appreciated.
Thanks for coming,
All right.
Bob.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Kane.
Thank you.
I will leave and let you be. How's that?
You can stay.
Oh my God, it's so exciting. Stay.
Well, how about the next time?
You know,
No
Back to
worries.
work for me. So I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much. You
Thank
have a
you.
great holiday. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Pete, is this item still on the agenda?
The 625, we're gonna defer to the January.
We will
15th
defer
meeting.
that to the next meeting, okay. New business, local licenses, review, discuss and vote on local license and application renewal for calendar year 2025. A list of them here, as well as a little information in the town administrator's report.
So you have a mix of alcohol license, entertainment, 1 lodging, common vic for food, and 3 dealer licenses. All of them are renewals except for 1, which is a new application from Castaways at Whately Investments. They are seeking an automatic amusement device license for 3 arcade games essentially. And otherwise, everything else here is a renewal. I did provide some information in the report that of the license applications, we do have 1 an applicant that is in arrears right now on a few different items. With personal property tax, police detail, costs, as well as, real estate property tax as well.
And to the best of our knowledge, they have not been paid.
And I confirm, yes, with the town treasurer this afternoon that we still have not received.
And you reached out to them recently
They,
to let them know.
the business owner was advised a couple weeks ago to make sure that they take this up and clear it up beforehand. The board does have the ability to, withhold renewal or granting of a license for something like, non-payment of taxes or other, like the detail costs. Should you decide to do that, however, you do want to give proper notice to that, that business owner that is going to be something that you would want to do. And so,
And have a
town
hearing.
council, did provide us some steps. And so if the board wants to do this, you can, determine that you would defer the full renewal of that particular business license or licenses at this tonight, that you're gonna then schedule a hearing with at least 40-day notice, 14-day notice, but that you will also grant tonight an extension, a limited conditional renewal for a short period of time from today or from the end of December to the day after that public hearing, so that at least that business can still operate during that time period until we can hold the public hearing, at which time you then formalize and state, yes, you're willing to grant the license, but you're going to, let's say, you're gonna have to have a payment plan with the town treasurer to catch up on these outstanding, or we're going to deny the renewals and the new application for this reason, or whatever it may be that you decide. But what you're doing tonight is you're at least allowing them to continue until that public hearing.
Okay, and they recommend that you do that, because of the.
Because you want to give the business sufficient notice.
Yeah.
Essentially, you don't want to tell the business we're not renewing. You have 2 weeks that you want to give them the notice to then appear at the public hearing, at which time you'll make a decision.
And the hearing is simply to make a decision, or the business makes their argument that, this is why you're in arrears, et cetera.
Yep, and then you
Please have say.
as the board will say how you could then work with them in order to continue those licenses. Or that based on the lack of payment or other things that you now will not renew the license or not grant the license.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Any discussion? In my fellow board
I
members?
feel like that's a fair
Yeah,
way to go. I don't want to just grant the license with over $6,000 in arrears, almost 7,000. Between the three different things. I don't feel comfortable with just renewing, but if we can settle on a hearing date, I would be happy to form a motion for a limited condition renewal until the day after the hearing, and we have to figure out.
These are the three motions that we make, and we can make them as one. Sorry.
Right, but we need a date though, I think, right?
Yeah.
It would be the January 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do the
Oh, okay.
14th or the 28th, but the 14th would give us, we could post, as long as we post by Monday, we definitely have.
Okay, then I'd say sooner.
This isn't something that needs to be like, put out in like.
A legal ad.
Right? Or, cause if so, then I would, okay.
David
It's just a
did not
license.
mention that.
It's a license renewal. It's
Yeah.
not a-
It's just a notice period. So although it's a hearing, it's a notice period to the business owner. It's less about the public.
Yeah.
It's a public meeting, but
Yes,
it's, yeah.
just wanna make sure. Okay, awesome, thank you.
And I agree. I think that it's fair to hold off until we have some idea of whether they're planning to and how they're planning to pay and make our
Yeah.
decision at that point.
Have they somehow already sent a check for the cost of the license?
I do have the money, but I wait until
Yeah.
we all.
Right, you don't cash the check.
Yeah, so I
until-
still have all of the checks.
Yeah.
So they're able to pay that, but not the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I believe we do have the police chief here to confirm that there have been some payments made on the police detail.
So kind of the history of the payments of the details. So we have, going back to December, so since the end of December, there hasn't been a payment
2023,
FY 24.
Okay.
So for last year.
Yeah,
okay,
So those outstanding fees were for those 6 months. They have started paying occasionally when an officer does a detail, they'll occasionally give a check, but not always. So there's nothing consistent about that. So since FY 25 started, there's additional funds that are outstanding as well.
additional on top of. the
no,
funds
this is the
that
total.
No, so it's a total,
included in that.
that total was as of last week.
Yeah.
And we did, I want to say two more details since then, so it's probably
You'll get a little bit more.
a little bit more, closer to
Yeah.
6,000.
All right.
Okay, so what is the
Is
nature
there
of
a
the motion?
The nature of the motion.
Right,
is the items here.
all right, that's okay.
Compact them.
I just want to emphasize that you're giving a limited conditional renewal
Limited.
of the
conditional, yeah.
existing and not granting the new requests. I would hold off on granting the new requests. Just because it's,
I'll-
if you're gonna then have to
Yeah.
withdraw it.
Yeah.
Then we don't.
Yeah.
Okay,
Stop me
good.
if I do it wrong.
All right,
I move that we give the castaways a limited condition renewal.
Start with
Start with what?
the defer that you're going to, that the
Oh, that
board
we
defer.
defer the full license renewal of the applicable castaways license tonight. We schedule a hearing with a date that allows for a 14-day notice, which would be January 14th, our meeting here.
So,
And-
so the date would be January 15th for them. The day after the hearing.
Oh, that
right,
the end of their renewal ends on
Yeah.
January 15th, but
Right.
the hearing is on the
Right.
14th.
The license.
But yeah,
would
so
be
she's on
valid.
the point right now of that, of when the hearing would be, which is January 14th.
Then we
Yeah.
vote a limited conditional renewal for a short period of time, which is from now through January, through our
January
hearing.
15th.
So that'll be
15th, through our hearing on January 14th, when we make a decision, so January 15th. Pending and subject to the determination of the select board at the hearing on January 14th regarding denial or non-renewal of the license for non-payment of local taxes, fees, and charges. That was a group effort, thank you.
Second,
All those
and
oh, go
if
ahead.
I can comment, their current license is valid through December 31st. So if they were to pay between now and December 31st all their outstanding fees, then that would like this.
Well, no, we would
We've
still
got
have.
to have,
we still have-
we've got to have a
We
hearing
still have the
yeah,
hearing.
We would still have a hearing. We would,
renewal, but we wouldn't have.
we would have nothing to object
We
to.
would correct that.
Yeah.
And they, so they could take care of this whole thing by just paying their bills.
Right.
All right,
And then, so, just to make sure I understand, we're deferring, the automatic amusement device, 3 new licenses, and we are.
Deferring the renewals.
deferring. the
The-
rules on
We're not,
alcohol.
or what's the action on the automated amusement devices?
You're not acting on the request for the automated,
Okay.
that you're gonna take that up.
And that's not a part of our motion.
You can state that now because you're acting on that all castaway, so you can add that. David was just focused on the renewals.
Okay, yeah, but
Any applications for renewals or,
the renewals, so that would be
or new license?
the entertainment and the all alcohol
Yes.
licenses. Okay, good, just to be clear.
Do you have, do you have that in a email version that you can send me, like, so I have the correct motions?
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, a second, yeah, I think Fred seconded.
I seconded it.
Oh, did you? All right,
Yeah.
and all those in favor?
Aye,
Okay.
Okay, that covered the new licenses, because we will have,
no,
We have not approved.
we have not approved the new license.
we haven't considered, then they will be considered at the January 14th.
Yeah, I think we should consider those at January 14th, yeah.
Yeah, so if And you're referring to the new license that Casper has for the automated,
For
right?
the automated
Yep.
amusement device, yep.
So you can make a motion to defer
Yeah.
action on that.
Okay, I move that we defer action on the three new licenses for automated amusement devices.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 But now you wanna act on all the other.
right,
renewals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
everybody,
Aye.
look at you.
There's a lot of
Huh?
steps.
In good
So-
standing,
I
et
move that
cetera.
the board approve the local licenses for calendar year 2025 as documented in our list, with exception of those for Whately Investments, DBA Castaways, which we dealt with in our previous two motions.
second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We'll have, at the end, we can sign all of those, because I.
Oh, okay.
If you- yeah.
Right.
Perfect.
Okay.
Fiscal year 2026 budget, take it away, Pete.
Yes. Okay, so this is the proposed budget for the select board administration. Account 122,5400. So in the report I gave you, I outlined, but I'll go through what I did here. For the request for 2026, up for discussion, it's just put in here for personnel. All three line items have a 3%. We can adjust that to whatever the board would like. But I want to get more into the general expenses. So I went through and looked at what we actually expended in 2024 on each one of these, and I saw that there was some inconsistency or issues with the dues and meetings, and then we also have a line item mileage and meetings. And so what I tried to do was make this a little bit clearer. And so for dues and meetings, I was looking at specifically all costs related to any membership costs as well as conference classes. And then mileage and meetings would be mileage reimbursements, any fees, food expenses for internal meetings as opposed to external, where I felt like the dues and meetings made sense for external stuff because it's membership of external memberships and therefore any meetings for those external or conferences. So when I looked at that, I saw that and then I started parsing out what we spent in FY 24. I found that we spent almost 1,700 on dues and meetings, where in FY 25, we appropriated 1,000. So my recommendation is for 26, bump this to 2,500, giving us 2,500 for any conferences, classes, and dues. But when I looked at the mileage and meetings line item, we only spent with those reimbursements and fees $467.80 in FY 24, and yet we appropriated $3,000. So my suggestion is to drop that in 26 to 750, and in the end, it's actually reducing between those two line items, or there's a reduction of $750.
Why are they separate categories?
I don't know.
Can we just combine them? Because if we combine them, we won't have something that's 150%.
I wanna see,
I
I
don't
know
think
that some of these
think-
wordings are based on on municipal finance. They're
Okay.
consistent, so I'm gonna ask,
Okay.
Dara, if we can amend the mileage and meetings to be mileage and fees or something else. So that we don't have meetings appear in two separate line items, because that's where it's just.
That's the
confusing.
confusion, yeah.
And thankfully, when we pay our bills, we're only paying it out of general expenses. We don't pay it out of each of the sub line items.
Uh-huh.
It's just a better way for us to budget.
Right,
That's why I wanted to look at it specifically, how did we spend it in 24 and how can we properly budget based on that? So that's where we didn't do anything wrong. It's just more of like, let's clarify what we're doing. But I can ask Dara if we can change the language of that mileage line item. Moving on though, advertising and recording. In 24, there was a significant jump in our advertising, likely from RFP, like advertising as well as open positions. Any searches that you did, like for the TA role. You appropriated 750 for advertising in the current budget. My recommendation is let's just bump that a little bit up to 1,000. It's just a suggestion. Postage is an outdated line item. We now do all of our postage costs out of our building operations. But we still did expend in 2022, so we have to leave that on this table for now, but it's still leaving it at a 0. Newspaper subscription. We appropriated in 2025 current budget, $250. However, the cost was actually $312 last year. So my suggestion is let's bump, because we know the newspapers do increase costs, bump that to $325. It's not an issue for our current budget because we can thankfully move things around, but we just need to allocate a little bit more for that. Memorial Day band, my recommendation is to keep that consistent with last year current budget, which is $300. Town meetings. This line item is really for using funds in order to get our town meeting or the annual warrant printed out of house. My recommendation is to zero this out and handle it in-house. There is no reason why we can't do it. We're not doing special bindings. Jess and I can easily handle the printing ourselves and the stapling. We can get out of our operating expense a binder if we wanted to, but let's just zero that out.
Okay, and that's not like, we have, especially when we had it outdoors, we had someone come do the audio, we had the electrician come and put the electricity out. That's not an expense that was under town meeting here.
Well, interestingly, I didn't see those, if we did, which we
Right.
did do, they were never
Yeah.
paid out of our select board.
Oh,
I believe it will likely end up getting paid out of our building operations. instead.
Okay.
Technically, that's what it was being
Yeah.
referred to,
oh, okay.
Which,
that
yeah.
transition period.
yeah,
Oh, because that's the only other cost I know.
which
of.
I would say
That
that
goes
one
with
we
town
could
meeting.
still continue, paying out of the operating because it is an operational type of thing.
Oh, okay.
But that'll bring us to our next line item.
But before we go to the next line item, I'm gonna back you up to Memorial Day band again. Remember when I said, who's the band?
Frontier,
Oh, is it Frontier?
Frontier's band.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't
It's a
know that.
donation we make
That's
to the
great.
band.
oh, it's a donation.
I think too, and
okay.
the band will come and play at our memorial.
Okay, because I know some, when I was on the Arts Council, and when we were on the Arts Council,
yeah,
there were
yeah.
sometimes submissions for a band to play at town functions.
No, I believe
That
this
was
is
not
yeah,
Memorial Day.
for the Frontier Marching Band to come
Okay.
in the
got it.
parade itself.
In the parade
Yeah.
itself.
And sometimes with Mr. Skrosky driving the bus.
Oh, right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, let's go to the next line.
Okay, so the next line
Town
item.
reports.
Annual town reports. This is for the printing cost to do the special bound, the nice quality annual town reports, not something that we could do in-house. Interestingly, you appropriated 750 to that in the current budget. When we looked at the expenses from 24, it actually cost us $3,200 to print 150 annual reports, and that was actually paid out of the town operation, the building operations budget, not out of select board. It really should come from the select board budget, because that's where we're allocating the funds, but we are under allocating.
Yeah.
Thankfully, our building operations generally has a lot of flexibility, not flexibility, but it has a lot of money where we can, well, we shouldn't. Like,
Right.
we intended to pay for the annual report because it is an administration printing. So my suggestion is to appropriate 3,000. We won't print as many books last year. We printed too many last year. So bring it down. Hopefully we find another vendor where we can bring down our costs.
I was gonna
We're
look
looking at
into,
the print.
I was gonna look into. a
The
couple
issue of how many we need, I think, depends on the nature of town meeting. If there's something controversial at town meeting,
Yeah,
you're gonna need more than 150. For standard town meetings that we've had recently, 60 to 75
Mhm.
would be
Yeah.
ample.
So
So
the
what,
weather might have played a factor this
Right.
year as
Yeah.
well, so.
Yeah.
what kind of lead time
Yeah.
do we need for the printing to have sort of a feel for what the town meeting agenda is gonna be?
Weeks,
So-
not months.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think going into town meeting, we usually have an idea, you know, is there something, is there a lightning rod issue?
yeah,
Or not?
and most
If it-
printers will need like a
A
month
month,
to get
yeah.
outside to
Yeah.
get something.
So
Yeah,
we
I'm not
may be
worried
able to
about-
make a decision later about exactly how many copies to print. I mean, this year, you're saying printing 150,
Yeah.
but too much, we weren't gonna get 100. You know, 100 people. at that
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah,
And how many left over did we have?
about 30, so.
It's
What-
not
so
terrible.
It's
No,
not,
not
that's not
ter-
terrible.
No, not terrible. There was, I think we sent 10 to, let's see, I believe we sent, or I forgot where we sent them, and then 10 to 15 stay up front, so our residents can come pick them
Yeah.
up, or.
Yeah, we always
probably like
need
40
extra
all around,
copies.
But yes.
It's not just
Yeah.
town meeting.
Yeah, so we could, if you wanna up that number, certainly fine. I think right now we're talking about how much should we appropriate.
Right.
Mhm.
And we make it available as well.
Electronically.
Electronically.
Yes.
So I think a lot of people
Yeah,
are happy with that.
yeah. But yeah, if you feel like we should stay with 150 at this point. You know, we could always just allocate with the 3,000, and should we determine, you know, in March that we're gonna need 200, we could do a reserve fund request if we needed to, because it was unanticipated
And we-
increase on.
But we could also, you know, have a
Adjust the
lower
budget.
number, but sort of print on demand in-house.
Oh, in-house, that we could.
Without binding.
Yes,
If someone just wants to,
Get a smaller
Yes.
number that are nicely bound, and if we
Right.
need print copies of
Yes.
more.
Not a bad idea.
yeah,
Just as a point of interest, I don't know historically, but I know in the past, I've had conversations with Lynn going back a few years, but the sheriff's department had always done them in the past, because they have their own print shop there.
oh,
They pay for the paper and then they do all the printing.
They do our envelopes, so I didn't even think of that. That's.
Oh.
Goodness, yeah,
okay,
There's no charge for the printing,
Yeah.
it's just for the, just.
They
for the
often
paper.
need a good lead time
yeah.
around town meeting time.
Check into
Yeah,
that.
because there's a lot of towns that use them
okay,
for printing.
I'll still send you,
Yeah.
the receipts and stuff, but yeah, no, thanks for that.
Yeah.
I completely forgot.
but even at that, if we're out or running low,
Yes.
we can run off the information for
Yeah.
someone without binding it up.
Because we have. All right.
so based on just the numbers I threw in here, the total budget would be 140,300, just under that, which is a 3.84% increase.
Yeah.
So certainly happy to discuss if you want to adjust any of these, or if you want to have that as part of, if you want to hold off until we do the FinCom select board meetings as we go through all the budgets and then we start parsing them out. If you want me to show no increase on personnel and we wait and have the personnel discussion as part of the finance committee discussions. I don't know what your procedure is.
I
or
think
has
that,
been.
yeah, I think past, practice has been, that we don't put it in.
Okay,
And then, but they know that they're looking at a budget where the personnel number is artificially low.
okay,
And that they know that that'll get added later on.
okay.
So I think that's what I recall as past.
Yeah,
Past practice.
that's been. passed
So
back.
I should drop that to
Yes,
zero.
drop that, and then it'll get
Okay.
put in.
That's the way everybody else is gonna do it.
Yeah,
Oh, it
the
is,
total
okay.
number gets put in pretty much at the end of the process.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. Any other numbers that you would like to fiddle with?
No, I think we should,
They all
that
look
is
reasonable.
really reasonable.
Yeah,
So I mean, I think it's as good a starting point as any. And you have I'm sorry.
And no, when you take that 3% out, then the change in the overall budget is really minimal.
It's really minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause the majority of the budget is personnel,
Yeah.
so,
And a lot of changes just, aside from the town reports, is just shifting money around from one
One
line to
category to
another.
another, yeah.
yeah. You will see though, when you look at just general expenses, in 25, the allocation was $6,550. The proposed budget is 7875, so that is a 20% increase on general expenses.
But that's
But it is a
small.
very small part of your budget.
And
right.
a huge amount of that is in the town report,
Yes,
which is a flexible number, which if we go to the sheriff's department may drop considerably anyway.
yeah.
All right, do we need to vote on this, Pete, at present, or just says review, discuss and vote on that?
I guess if you could
I don't
just
think so,
vote
no,
to submit it.
Yeah.
It's really your recommendation.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just, yeah.
We don't vote on any other departments.
Yeah, so that
Well,
was the
well,
question that I had. Does the select board review any of the other like non-department ones, but more like the outside services, or is that supposed more so with the FinCom?
And we've done it together, this is we're at
Yeah.
their meetings,
Okay.
we review at the same time.
Yeah, we've never pre-screened anything
Okay.
Other
Other
than
than
this,
your role.
other than this.
So this
Because
is.
I am putting together all those other extraneous ones, but I just wasn't sure what your
Yeah.
role, okay.
Okay,
No, in the past, we haven't even seen this.
well, I think we have sometimes.
Well, I don't recall ever going through with, by line item as a board.
Oh,
It's been pretty much a town administrator submission.
Well, I move that the board submit the fiscal year 26 select board administration budget as reviewed and amended to the finance committee.
But second,
All those in favor? Aye.
I,
Excellent.
great.
I just think it's wrong that he didn't have to sit in the hot seat in front of everybody like we all do.
And have the finance committee.
Yeah, staring at you and shaking their
Yeah,
head.
I think-
yeah, no,
they glare at us.
the downside is we have to sit through all the meetings.
Yeah. All right, next item on the agenda, review, discuss, and vote on postings of 2 job positions. The Agricultural Commission Administrative Assistant and the Community Preservation Committee Administrative
Thanks, sir.
Assistant. Thank you.
Yes, so the Ag Commission and CPC both have requested administrative assistant staff support to handle their minutes, agendas, and general tasks. The Ag Commission has a line item that was added to their budget under the current operating budget for this explicit purpose. And the CPC is also permitted to utilize a portion of its funds for administrative purposes as well. So we do have 2 job descriptions that were recently approved by the Personnel Committee, and they are based on the admin assistant positions for the planning board and ZBA, just with minor modifications based on requirements of each of those 2 boards. So, and the rate of pay would match that of the land use admin assistant, so 21.16 per hour.
Okay.
Because essentially the responsibility and the skills are the same. The amount of time you put in is gonna be dependent on the type of board, so the rate of pay will be reflected in how much time goes into it. That's why.
Well, the rate of pay times the number of.
Time the number of hours.
Is
Yeah.
that how much you get now?
Yes, yep.
The rate doesn't change.
Yeah, the rate doesn't change, just the number of hours, so, yeah. So my ask is if I can go ahead and post for these 2 positions, I would market them as an individual to hold both positions, similar to what we did for land use, where it's 1 person can hold both planning board and zoning board. Because the reality is the Ag Commission will be a very minimal requirement, there will be more time for CPCs, primarily during their review of project submittals.
So spring will be,
Yeah.
Well, I would move the board approve the posting of the Agricultural Commission Administrative Assistant and Community Preservation Commission Administrative Assistant positions at a rate of 21.16 per hour.
Second,
All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. ARPA CLFRF funding, review, discuss, and vote on project updates and items to close.
Yes, so we have a number of projects that have been completed and we have one that had remaining funds. So,
We can repurpose those.
yes,
Yeah.
the library computer replacement project is completed. There is a remaining amount of $1,849.04 that the library director has approved to be repurposed and given back. The library electrical system and safety upgrades, that project has been completed and they used all of the appropriated funds. The MVP solar array match, we've now paid all the invoices to cover the town portion, or at least what we allocated in ARPA, so we've now utilized the 100% on that. I believe it was just those, oh no, there is one more, the South County EMS ambulance. We've now paid our portion of that ambulance cost, so those 4 projects can be closed out and the board can also unobligate and my recommendation is to take the unused portion of the library computer replacement and reallocate that to the highway mower project so that it helps to reduce, the highway department's other fund
Okay.
costs.
Seems good.
I move that the board close out the projects discussed, and that the remaining $1,849.04 from the library computer replacement project repurposed towards the highway department mower project.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Select board liaison updates. You got it.
South Bend Senior Center, we had another meeting with our, with the group doing the, assessment, and we have another meeting scheduled soon. They've got, they're getting closer and closer to having numbers to attach to things. This last meeting, they gave us much better, drawings, and that what they came up with is much closer to what we think we need and want. The only other committee, I just started on the electric battery storage meeting, and right here is my meeting minutes. We have lots of homework. But we're at the point of, we really need to understand what are the risks and the safety issues better before we can figure out what is a proper response for the town. So that got started though, it got started like 2 hours ago.
Awesome. I have no updates from the water department, as I was not able to attend their most recent meeting, and I'm in the process of making a meeting with Cindy at the library, but I have nothing else to report.
And committee negotiations continue between the school districts and the teachers at Whately Elementary, teachers and instructional assistants at Whately Elementary School, and will continue for 3 more sessions scheduled over the next several months, so they will keep going.
And town administrator updates.
For the fire department, on Tuesday, December 3rd, there was a structure fire at 50 Masterson Road. That home does remain habitable. There were no injuries, thankfully. It's under investigation, but it doesn't appear suspicious. Damage exceeds 10,000. 2 Whately engines were on the scene with 10 firefighters, and the fire department was actually able to handle this situation without any mutual aid needed. The host community agreements, we've now received word from the CCC last week that both the DMC as well as Green Jeans HCA's have now been approved and moved along. So all of the ones that we did the renewals on have now been approved. And so thankfully, the CCC was okay with our version of the model, and that's started. So we can continue moving forward with that. Under personnel, the new community development administrator, Erica Roper, started this past Monday. She's now at the front room of the town offices with the town clerk, so feel free to stop by to say hi. And we also have posted the opening for the animal inspector position. Posting is available on the website for anybody interested in serving as the animal inspector. It is a stipended position, provides service to do our barn inspections as well as assist with any rabies concerns, primarily with cats, but other wild or domestic animals as well. And then this update can be stricken. It was that we did have a vacancy on the personnel committee, but that just got filled.
That has been filled.
That has now been filled again,
Oh,
so
fantastic.
we,
Oh,
Who's our new person?
Susan Barron, who was the
Yeah.
only person.
she's back in again.
Back.
Okay, excellent.
And then, Fred mentioned this, but, there is going to be tree removal that's gonna happen. Asplin Tree will be removing trees along some local roads over the next week. Weather dependent, and this has to do with, providing clearance to the utility lines. That includes South Long Plain Road, Egypt Road, Lower Conway Road, Westbrook Road, Masterson Road, and the south end of Chestnut Plain Road. They're gonna have 2 different crews, each with a chipper that will work on the project. They will use the DeMayo lot on State Road to store just the vehicles, no materials or anything And that's just to store the vehicles until the next day that they're going out.
Okay.
Is this, by the way, this is not something we're paying for, it's the utilities are
The
paying for.
utilities are paying.
Right,
They'll-
we're just cooperating by letting them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and we already held the tree hearing,
Yeah.
the Keith already
Keith did
did that,
that,
yep.
Items not anticipated.
There is one item not anticipated. We received over the weekend a request to renew and sign off on the Tri-State Fire Mutual Aid Agreement. Fire chief has reviewed it and encourages the board to, this is a standard, but to sign off on that mutual aid agreement so that we can submit it and continue on as we have both providing mutual aid, but also receiving mutual aid.
We approve the Tri-State Fire Mutual Aid Agreement.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Folks in the audience, are you here for items not anticipated on the agenda?
I think so,
Okay.
that item was pushed off to another meeting and I was here, so I thought I'd stay in.
Oh, okay, alrighty.
okay,
That's the assessor's
Yes.
question. Yes,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, we'll look forward to taking that up at the next meeting. And Mr., I'm sorry, I forgot.
Casey,
Casey,
sorry,
yeah.
he's here for support of me.
Ah,
oh,
Good job.
good
He
job.
has your back, he's got my back.
Alrighty,
Yeah.
okay, thanks you too. Next meetings are January 14th at 6 P.M. and Tuesday, January 28th at 6 P.M. 2025.
Yeah.
Yes, move to adjourn.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right,
1
thank you,
minute to
Jess.
spare.